Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call tonight's regular board meeting to order. Renee, if you would show all board members present, and if you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Satterley, would you like to take the first board salute?
Absolutely. The board salutes New Washington Middle High School teacher, Dr. Tim McDonald, for organizing an amazing real-life history lesson for the students of all three Greater Clark schools. Tim scheduled a visit with Jerry Blaine, a Secret Service agent that was part of John F. Kennedy's detail during his presidency. Mr. Blaine addressed students about his time on the detail and highlighted information from his book, The Kennedy Detail. The book will be released as a film next November on the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I want to thank Dr. McDonald and his wife, because I know she had a lot to do with it too, for bringing Mr. Blaine to Greater Clark County Schools and the amount of history you provide to our students.
Token of our appreciation for your efforts to go above and beyond to bring Mr. Blaine and his wife. His wife was pretty impressive too. She's behind the scenes, but I spent some time talking to her. She was very impressive. She was weird. Yes, yes. We really appreciate the fact that he did this and coordinated it, and he was a living history. So thank you so much for doing that for our school corporation. We really appreciate it. Okay, thank you, sir.
Ms. Teresa, would you like to take the next one?
I absolutely would. And this is for Brooke Bowling, who is from Charlestown Middle School. And I'm very pleased to be able to make this presentation because I was actually a judge for this contest that she won. And I just went over and talked to her, and she didn't even recognize me. So it was good. And I will tell you that I did not know the students' names or where they were from, so there was no hanky-panky. All right. The board salutes Charlestown Middle School student Brooke Bowling, who participated in the annual Optimist Oratorical Contest hosted by 3 local Optimist clubs on February 21st. Participating students were randomly assigned to one of the sponsoring clubs contest and spoke on the topic, and these were so great, why my voice is important. Brooke placed first in the Jeffersonville Breakfast Club contest and then moved on to the regional oratorical contest. That's the one that I was a judge for, which was held on March 12th. Greater Clark is pleased to announce that Brooke won the regional Optimist oratorical contest and will now go on to compete at the state level this month in April. Congratulations, Brooke Bowling. Brooke was very poised and very relaxed during the whole thing, and I was so impressed with her ability to speak in public. And thank you, parents, for sharing your lovely daughter with us. And her grandparents were there too that night, but they couldn't make it tonight. So
very nice.
Congratulations.
All right. Mr. Hall, would you like to take the Aramark salute?
Yeah. This chili's some good stuff here, and I think we sampled it last meeting. In the third year competing at the annual Jeffersonville Downtown Chili Bonanza, Greater Clark's nutritional services provider, Aramark, took top prize at the event held on March 7th. Chief Chuck's secret recipe has become a community favorite as well as a school favorite, and with 3 elementary schools serving the famous chili at their festivals. The board salutes Aramark.
Dr. Deichel, go ahead and announce this. No pressure. No pressure.
Ms. Gilkey, I also would like to say that Dr. Deichel and Mr. Hare and I went to that chili cook-off, and again, there was no hanky-panky. We only got 1 vote each. But we did vote for him. 1 vote each.
I would just like to say, since Parkwood is in my district, that we do appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. It's so needed.
All right, Mr. White.
Sure. Congratulations to Jeffersonville High School student Brandy Farler, who has been awarded a National Silver Medal Scholastic Award for her work titled Tidal Wave. Brandy was selected for the National Award after receiving the prestigious Gold Key Award at the regional level scholastic event held at the Jeans Academy in February. Brandy will be invited to attend the 90th anniversary National Scholastic Art Awards event in New York City this May. The awards weekend includes a ceremony at Carnegie Hall and a celebration event in Times Square. The board salutes Brandy Farler for her amazing accomplishment. And Brandy is not able to be here with us tonight, but her teacher, who I'm sure had a great impact on her, Teresa Marr, is here to accept on her behalf.
right, that's always the favorite part of the meeting for me. Next, we have our approval of tonight's agenda, and I don't believe we have any proposed amendments. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. And for those of you that are here to support your students, tonight you are welcome to leave. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting. We'll let you go enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah. Run now. Yeah. That was good, though.
All right, so tonight's agenda has been approved. We'll go ahead and move on with the minutes from previous meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Any discussion, questions, changes? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented? All right, 7-0. Thank you. We don't have any public comments tonight, do we, Renee? All right, so we'll move ahead to the consent agenda. That's items 1 through 5, unless anyone needs to break something off to be considered separately. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Any discussion? All in favor of approving items 1 through 5 as presented? All right, thank you. That's 7-0. Mrs. Kraft, would you like to do gifts to buildings tonight?
No, I wouldn't dare do that. I'm trying to find it.
She wants to do it.
Gosh, do I have it?
I had a feeling she might.
Well, you might say the tennis team seem like they're popular. 'Cause I think they got the majority of the gifts
I don't know.
this time around.
I think I don't have it. I thought you were going to be able to do.
Well, we want to thank them for that. Every meeting, there's always something for gifts to schools,
Yeah.
and we want to recognize them separately. That's it. We thank everybody that's donated and helped.
And I just want to point out the Jeffersonville FOP Lodge 100. They donated $1,000 this time, but they are often on our list, and so I want to give a shout out to them personally. They're very supportive of our schools and our students, and we definitely appreciate their support. Someone want to make a motion?
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Second, Mrs. Kraft. All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you. And we'll move on to action item number 1. That's the Norton Academy Clinical Affiliation Agreement.
Board, I'll have Mrs. Lewis. She'll actually be up here for the next several action items.
Here we go. The first item that we're presenting this evening is the Norton Academy Clinical Affiliation Agreement. And as you will remember, for a number of years, Jeffersonville High School has partnered with Norton Healthcare and Norton Academy to offer certified nursing assistance programs at the high school. And this year, they are going to be doing their clinicals at the Providence Retirement Home. And Providence and Norton's have already come to their terms and conditions for using that site as the location for the clinicals. And this action this evening just basically has you all acknowledge by vote of approval that the students will be working there and continuing to get the experience they need to finish the program and actually be CNAs that can work out in our business world. So we are recommending that you approve the agreement for the training program for CNAs.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Any questions? All right. All in favor? 7-0. Next, we have the Hartford 403B plan amendments.
Correct, and the Hartford 403B plan, as you will remember, is our current 403 plan for the school corporation. And in order to have the funding mechanism location for the retirement incentive that we offered, and also to make the change that was actually negotiated and approved a while back, and that was for the superintendent's contract as to how often the annuity that's a part of his contract would be funded. Initially, it was set up for yearly, and for investment purposes, it's better to do it on a monthly basis. So I've worked with Kevin Bainline and the Hartford representatives to get the plan amendment, which you have been previously provided, put together so that we can have the funding mechanism ready at the end of the school year for funding the retirement incentive, and also so we can go ahead and get Dr. Mellon's annuity set up and funded on a monthly basis. So the recommendation is that you will approve the amendments as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor? That's 7-0. Thank you. Policy 1500, website advertising. This is a first reading tonight, correct?
That's correct, and there's no action needed on a first reading. If you will remember, at the last meeting, we brought this to you just as a general discussion. This is the website advertising policy. It's similar to other policies for website advertising that school corporations are using in our general vicinity. It is first reading tonight. We don't need any action unless you have some questions or comments.
Any questions or comments or suggested changes before we bring it back for a second reading? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
King Farming Agreement. This is a standard issue kind of deal.
It is. Back in 2003, if you all will remember, we bought 25 acres of land over off of Utica-Sellersburg Road on Charlestown Pike, Charlestown Road, and we bought it for investment purposes and to decide whether or not we might use that land. But there's maintenance that's involved with maintaining a piece of property, such as, mowing the property and keeping it manageable. Well, we were fortunate to have Tom King come forward and seek permission to farm 14 of those acres, and as a part of that agreement, he takes care of the property out there for us. We also get a little revenue off of it. It's certainly not our retirement income, but it does, every little bit helps, as Dr. Dykle always says. So it gives us $65 per acre for the use of the land, and he rotates crops from corn to soybeans each year, and he pays us when the crops are in the fall. And so if there's no one objecting, we would recommend approval of the continuation of this farming agreement at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions?
This is a year-to-year agreement.
Yes.
Anything else? All right. All in favor? All right. 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have transfer of contract bus route.
Correct. And this evening we have a request from Mr. Ron Ingram, who is one of our contract drivers, and he currently has bus 13W, a New Washington route, route number 92, and he has asked permission to relinquish his rights to that contract to Edward and Teresa Bergen, and they have filed paperwork with us agreeing to take over the assignment of that route and continue the route and all the terms and conditions in the contract, including the compensation, which of course is subject to fuel escalation and de-escalation. And if we can get this route assigned to the Bergens at this time, they would take over the route responsibilities as of tomorrow. So the superintendent and the transportation director, Mr. Gary Green, recommend the approval of the assignment and transfer of this route at this time, effective as of tomorrow's date.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions? So
I will tell you, Teresa does a wonderful job for us. But Teresa Bergen does a wonderful job for us on the route she has. So.
Great, great.
And they're just taking over the existing contract. There are no changes, correct?
No changes, that's correct.
And not everyone wants to drive the hill in New Washington. Definitely.
No.
Especially not in January and February.
Yeah.
So this is
All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you.
And so we'll switch it up a little bit now. I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Dykle.
Now, on that farmer, I think we need to get a couple bushels of corn or soybeans for food service. I think that'd be a good compensation.
He's always thinking.
Maybe we can get a donation.
Not good. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First one I have for you is approval of a contract with Legacy Environmental back on February 5th. I came to the board and showed you the advantage of using Legacy Environmental Services, how they've gotten me over $500,000 over like a 4-year period, free money or reduced money, a lot of environmental stuff, that's what they look for. And I'd like to ask approval for their first contract with us to start looking for propane, auto gas for our buses. We'd look at converting part of our fleet to propane buses, also look at converting our maintenance vehicles to propane bus vehicles. And there's also propane equipment out there that we could get, such as lawnmowers, trimmers, edgers, saws, the chainsaws. So we're asking permission to enter into this agreement. This is the first agreement that we'll have with Legacy Environmental at a cost not to exceed $3,100 for 40 hours, up to 40 hours of their services.
Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Any questions?
So this is just to investigate.
Investigate, also to apply for any grants for us on the second sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Investigation of current incentives and potential grants, potential partner. They will write the grant for us.
I think we don't have the
We
second
don't have
sheet.
the second sheet. That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, the second sheet was their proposal. You don't have the proposal there? Okay. They're going to do an educational overview and materials to school administration on propane, auto gas, collaborate with industry partners, propane school bus demonstration, investigation of current incentives and potential grants, return on investment scenario, bus fueling, infrastructure, fleet deployment best practices, and potential project partner development and budget writing for $3,100, not to exceed.
No, we have that.
Anything else?
Did you find what you're looking for, Teresa?
He answered my question.
Okay. The grants would be for a lot of different things, but the main purpose would be to help us get money to convert our equipment?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We held a meeting, board, last week where we invited our colleagues from Clarksville, New Albany, Floyd, and West Clark, and we brought the individual in, the gentleman in, and he spoke to us, and really we started to talk about what are the main areas that we would be interested in, looking at and working together. So this is specific to our needs, but we're trying to work with our colleagues because if it's possible that we could even open ourselves up to more grant opportunities because we're working together as a larger group, then we wanted him to be aware of that. So the propane conversion piece was one of the top areas for us to pursue, and so that's not just for us, but that would be for our entire group. So this is just sort of a starting point for us.
Any other questions?
When was that meeting?
Was it last?
A couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, my
Last
fault.
week was-
Yeah, I'm sorry. Last week was spring break. Sorry. 2 weeks ago,
It was like
just
at
before
3
spring
o'clock
break.
in the afternoon.
Because that's my job on that committee, and nobody called me.
You were in your bus.
You had it when I was in my bus.
Yes.
Okay. You're all welcome to come ride my bus next time.
Do you have room?
No,
Awesome.
only with the babies. I just thought, okay, so when I go to the next meeting, I'll say, sorry, I missed that.
Just
Okay.
tell them you deferred it to other people.
Okay. Just make it sound good. Thank you.
Dr. Daigle, just a couple of questions. You've had a fairly high success rate in other districts with this type program, right?
Yes.
I think I heard you say that. And then second of all, it's bigger than propane, so propane is just where we start, but is there like a laundry list of cost-cutting ideas that you go to next once you...
It depends on what grants are available at that time. Some of the things that I was able to get was, I got a new propane forklift, half price. That was one of the 50% deals that I had to do. I also got a baler for cardboard at 50% off. I ended up getting 3 free brand new propane lawnmowers with a 60-inch wide cutting deck. We ended up getting 2 electric vehicles to replace our gators at the high school. So we have electric vehicles instead of gators running on gas or diesel. We did a lot of energy things, energy grants for replacing lights in the schools. I think what else? Oh, we had Safe Routes to School. We had 2 grants there. We had a planning grant for $75,000, showing students how to safely cross busy highways, railroad tracks, things of that nature. We also paid in Lake Central. We had a safety village type setting, and they basically had a railroad car. They had different buildings that were built by volunteers, and the kids would go through there. We tried to get every second grader through that course, and then the planning grant ended up paying for that. That was a $75,000 grant. Also had coloring books in there on how to walk safely to school, ride your bike, things of that nature. Then we ended up getting a $150,000, I think it was, sidewalk grant. So I was able to actually put in sidewalks to reduce the transportation issue. We had some schools that were kind of like out in the country. It was all walkers. Even though you were right next to the school, there was no sidewalks. So by putting in this grant, we were able to put in sidewalks, eliminate a bus.
Okay.
So.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions before we take a vote? All right, the vote is to approve the Legacy Environmental Services to investigate potential grants for propane conversion. All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you.
Next one is we're asking for an increase in food service hours. Robert had come to me and said that several of his schools that he has, our workers in, they're putting out a lot of meals because of the increase that we have either through breakfast program or through their lunch program. They want to increase hours at 5 schools within the district. The additional hours for each kitchen will be generated through additional hours for current staff, and the creation of 2 new positions is what we're looking for. The schools are as follows: North Haven Elementary, Bridgepoint Elementary, Parkwood Elementary, New Wash High School, and Jeffersonville High School. North Haven, Bridgepoint, and Parkwood all have started breakfast in the classrooms in the last 2 years. Along with this new program came an approximately 50% increase in breakfast participation, yet no additional labor. Bridgepoint Park would have enough staff but need additional hours to meet the demand. For North Haven, a new position is needed to bring it in line with the model. So for North Haven, we're looking to add a half an hour to the current employee, and to create a new position for 3 hours per day. Total cost $6,874.44. Bridgepoint, we want to split a 3 hours between 3 current employees, so there's no additional benefits there. Total cost $6,938.03. Parkwood split 3 hours between 4 current employees, no additional benefits. Total cost $6,136.81. The next school we're proposing is New Washington High School. The current staffing model is close to the industry standard. The manager is the only employee that works from breakfast to lunch. This is the only kitchen in the district without a long hour cafeteria worker. Without a long hour position in the cafeteria, all the challenges rest on the manager to meet the needs of the day. Furthermore, in the event of a manager absence, there is not an employee in the kitchen that is used to covering these responsibilities. There is room in the staffing model to cover the additional 3 hours per day. New Washington High School, we would like to add 2.5 hours to a current staff member. No new benefits. Total cost $4,773.34. Final school is Jeff High. Based on the size and the number of meals served daily, there's an enormous potential for future growth. Currently, they are understaffed for the number of meals served, so any growth would only amplify this problem. Additionally, Jeff High has a significant employee absence problem, which only adds to the understaffing challenge. For JHS, we're proposing the creation of a new, longer 5.5-hour position. This will help with the absenteeism and allow us to increase our offerings to the students. So to create a 5.5-hour position, which will be benefit eligible, will cost the corporation $16,878.68.
Is there a motion?
Motion. approve.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions or discussion? My only question is, and this is a good question for you, our food services budget is good to handle another $25,000, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're
We're stacked in that one, right?
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. All right.
Robert's doing good.
Any other questions?
I think I'd also like to add, if you don't mind, Board, that one of the things that's happened with our food service staffing as we've been trying to address employee attendance-related matters is that Robert, he won't say this, but he's had to go out many times and fill the void in different buildings, and even though he's more than willing and capable of doing that, he's doing it to such a level that it's hindering his ability to manage the entire operation. And so we really would appreciate your consideration with this in order to help us better serve not only students but also properly staff these buildings and provide a little assistance to a manager that's been really going above and beyond.
Renee, do you want to put the picture up of Robert with his hairnet on?
I bet the elementary kids love Robert.
You're doing it wrong.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Next we have the wellness clinic.
Yes, what we're asking here is we met with our insurance committee on March 19th to discuss hiring R.E. Sutton and Associates to proceed with the request for proposals for a wellness clinic for our employees and our dependents. The clinic will not take the place of an employee specialty doctor and will be strictly on a voluntary basis. The appointments will be scheduled via the internet, and each appointment will be for 20 minutes. The clinic will be open a minimum of 20 hours per week. When we first start out, it'll be a minimum of 20, and then hopefully as it grows, we will see it expand to 30 hours, 40 hours, whatever. With different times and evening hours, when we see the clinic is accepted by our employees, we will add hours as needed. After the initial examination by the doctor or nurse practitioner, the remaining minutes of the exam will turn into a wellness visit. All employee records will be electronic, and the employee will have access to them at any time. The corporation will only know in aggregate data the number of employees who have, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, etc. The committee believes that this will be a cost savings for not only our employees by not having to pay a copay for visiting the doctor and any prescription medicine, but also a savings to the corporation by not having to pay claims to Humana. In the short term, we are anticipating a savings of $900,000 per year. That's the initial, what we're looking at. In future, we would anticipate using the clinic for employee physicals for student athletes to help out their parents, allergy shots for employees and dependents, Department of Transportation physicals for our bus drivers, and expanding it potentially to our workers' compensation claims and partnering with other school districts in Clark and Floyd counties, which could become an income generator for us. We would like to see 2 clinics open in our district, one in the Charlestown area and one in the Jeffersonville area. What we have, you should have it in your packet, I think, the contract. Mm-hmm. We're looking at, what is it here? $3,500 or $3,000 is what we're looking at to get this clinic started. He'll do the RFP. Then we'll look at evaluating the RFP, and then once we get that company on board, we'll come to the board and officially get that approved by the board. Then we'll look at where we have to put the clinic. So,
Board, normally what happens with this process is that the RFP will go out, and then providers will put their names in the hat and submit the appropriate information. What Sutton will then do is make sure that all the data that we need to make a decision is available to us, and then the providers will actually come in and make presentations to us. And to us, meaning the insurance committee, and Mrs. Gilkey is the board representative on that group. So at that point in time, then the committee could make a recommendation as to the provider, and then we would then bring that back to you as a board for a recommendation So what we're asking again for tonight is that you allow us to move forward on the process. We're not asking you to approve a clinic tonight.
Is there a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question. This company's located, that's based in Florida, Daytona Beach, I think, Daytona, Florida. They have an office in Indianapolis.
They have one in Indianapolis, yes. He started out in Brownsburg, Indiana. And then his office moved, it's with Brown and Root or something like that, or Brown and Associates.
It's not a local company, local vendor, local attorney or office that can handle this?
They don't have the expertise that Sutton has. He's done over 60 clinics in the state of Indiana. No one else has that expertise.
He's a board. The other interesting aspect, Mr. Hall, to him is that he's also a school board member himself in Brownsburg. So he understands school systems and school districts, and so I think he brings that perspective to the position, and that's why they focus entirely on school systems in terms of services, and the clinics become a major part of what he's doing. And there's going to be a visit that's been arranged in May that we'd like to take our insurance committee to Jennings County, where they do have a similar clinic that's already in place, so that our people can see how it functions and ask questions of the staff and so on.
Any other questions?
This clinic, I'm not familiar with this model, so this clinic, in your information it says that the teacher or the employee, would not have to pay a copay, and prescription medicine. So they will dispense medicine.
The company that we would hire would have the ability to buy prescription generic drugs at a reduced rate.
Okay. Will that information then be shared with that person's general practitioner?
If they need it to, yes. It could be given to the employee. See, when they get into the wellness part, they're going to do a complete write-up of your history. What medicines are you on, to make sure there's no interaction with the drugs that they're going to give you. So that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, so in essence, our employees, it could be a teacher, they have a prep period at 10 o'clock in the morning. They set an appointment for 10 o'clock. They show up at 10 o'clock. They get in immediately at 10 o'clock. They have 20 minutes guaranteed. They are diagnosed, whatever their ailment is, and the doctor can prescribe medication if necessary. If there's lab work that's necessary, they can do lab work there as well. The employee then leaves after 20 minutes, and the employee doesn't pay a cent for the visit, for the drugs, or for the lab work. And that's how there's a reduction in claims as a result of that.
That was going to be my next question. Were we going to allow teachers to leave their schools during prep time, and I would think that would help with our absenteeism, teacher absenteeism.
And then,
because right now they're going to have to take either a half day or something just to go to a doctor's appointment.
Sure. And not all of our employees. I mean, we already gave Sutton a list by zip code of where all of our employees live. And the majority of our employees do not live in Clark County. We have a lot living in Floyd County and other surrounding counties. But Floyd County is the next biggest that has a concentration of our employees. So I would love to see us partner with New Albany Floyd and have their employees that live in Clark County come to our clinic, designate so many hours available for them. They would designate so many hours available for our employees that live in Floyd County. So why would our employee have to come all the way back to Clark County? If they live in Floyd or Scott County, they can go to whatever clinic is available.
So how does the clinic get money?
We pay the clinic direct. So what we do is we're on a self-insured plan right now, so we pay whatever the claims come through based on what Humana pays. So if we pay the clinic direct, the claims will then be reduced going to Humana. So that's where we're going to see our savings. So we're going to pay this company so much per hour for a doctor or a nurse practitioner. None of the claims will then go to Humana. It stops right there.
So it reduces our costs monthly to Humana for that purpose. And in fact, often the startup cost for a clinic, the money that you save in the first year just in fewer prescriptions usually covers the cost of the clinic, the startup cost of the clinic in the first year. Wow. And so, and we're thinking about locations, and in Floyd County eventually it'd be great if they would jump in and want to be a part of the process. But for us and our employees initially, we're looking at a centralized Jeffersonville location, so our employees in Jeffersonville can get to that location relatively quickly, and also one in Charlestown. And we want to make it so it's our new Washington and staff members are able to get down there in a reasonable length of time. And again, whether they're hours during the school day or hours in the afternoon or early evening, we can work on that with the provider to make sure that we have adequate coverage.
That was going to be my question, Dr. Mellon. So when we do our RFP, it's for 2 clinics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. I don't see how we can do it as spread out as we are, because the strength of a clinic is the ability to provide immediate service and accessibility to our employees. So to identify a location in Charlestown, and that's the other issue. Sometimes these clinics are actually built into schools. There's space in the schools, but we don't see that in our situation currently. We would see us probably needing to find space that we would lease, and we think that's better for our employees anyway, because if our employee's not feeling well, they may be uncomfortable walking into a school building to go into the clinic, whereas they could go down the street to another building and provide the service there.
So is the clinic exclusive? Nobody else other than who has agreed to be part of it, such as Greater Clark or maybe Floyd? Somebody can't walk in off the street?
No.
And I think it's exclusive, as you have to be carrying our health insurance in order to qualify. You can't carry some other and then come in because you have an employee. I think that's where you were going.
So so a spouse or that's on another insurance plan would not be able to use the clinic.
But if the family, like for my family, my wife and my 3 children, they could all attend this clinic and receive services. So we think for our employees, there are just a lot of benefits. Obviously, there's a cost benefit to our corporation, which has been identified. But frankly, our employees, the whole design of this plan is to provide a level of care and service to our employees that they'll be able to get pretty instantaneously. It doesn't take the place of their family doctors. Okay. And oftentimes the providers will come into the area and they'll recruit the staff from that immediate area. They might recruit a family practice physician right from our area who would provide X number of hours of service to the clinic. So hopefully, it's not someone they're bringing in from outside necessarily. So we're trying to keep it really employee friendly.
And see, by going to our clinic, they actually see the doctor, and if there's any prescription drugs that need to be distributed, it'll be given at that time. So it's a one-stop shop, basically. So now you don't have to go to Walgreens or Myers or CVS to get your prescription drugs. It's handed out right then and there. Now you're going to save probably close to $50 a copay, because we have our $25 copay for the Humana, and then you also have a copay depending on what drug it is, and this is all going to be generic, so you're going to look at a 30-day supply or whatever for $7.50. So you're going to save $32.50 minimum.
In your experience, does this have any negative effect on our insurance carrier? I mean, you've not seen. To me, we're taking business away from.
It's interesting.
Is that going to have any negative effect on what we're going to have to pay for insurance costs?
It's going to have a negative effect. It's going to reduce our premiums. That'll be the nicer.
It will reduce our premiums.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
But what's interesting?
I was looking at it differently.
In a school district where I worked prior to coming here, Anthem was the provider. And when we went through this process, Anthem sat at the table with us. There was an Anthem representative. They were with Sutton as a facilitator, but Anthem had a representative that was at the table as well, because they knew that this is the future of healthcare. And so Humana would have the same. I have no problem with them having the same opportunity to be part of the discussion, and frankly, they should want to be, because this is the direction of healthcare. These clinics are popping up in school systems all over our state and all over our country. So.
And this isn't something new. I mean, up north in the steel industry, they've had them, back in the 40s and 50s, where you did all of your pre-employment physicals there. You got hurt for minor injuries, you went to their clinic. Major injuries, you went to the hospital. So, I mean, the clinics have been around for years and years and years. It's just a new idea for schools. And Richard is the preeminent, person that has started this. Now, there's other people that have started to, hop on the bandwagon. But with him doing over 60 clinics, I think he knows pretty much what he's doing.
I had one further question, and I apologize if it's in the package, but what is the length of years that we're going to put out for the RFP? I mean, how many years?
I think it's a minimum of 2 to start it.
Yeah. Okay. And is there a back-out clause? Sandy, will we have a back-out clause if it doesn't prove to be a money maker?
I've never seen his RFP. I would imagine there'd be something in there, but, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I tried to get a copy of his RFP from another school, and they said, no, it's proprietary.
Yeah, gotcha.
They wouldn't give it to me.
Okay.
Sandy, you have seen Mr. Sutton's consulting agreement, though, correct? The one that we're voting on? Okay. Any other questions?
Are you concerned about that, Sandy? Do you feel good that? Okay. Right. Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor? All right, 7-0.
Thank you. Next one is approval to request an RFP for water infiltration studies at Pleasant Ridge Elementary and Utica Elementary. The problem that we're having here is we're having water leaks. We thought it was in the roof structure. It's not in the roof structure. It's more in the wall. So water is seeping in through the wall of both of these schools, and we just don't know where it's at, and it's causing damage to the interior of the building through the ceiling tiles and things of that nature. So what we're asking for is permission to do an RFP to study these structural deficiencies and to see what is our best approach to fix this problem before we start doing any interior painting and replacing ceiling tiles. We need to find out what's the problem, and we're asking for permission to do this RFP to find out where is the water leaking in, and then what's our next best fit to fix it.
Were these buildings built around the same time, right?
Let's see. Pleasant Ridge was completed in '92 and Utica in 2000.
Do we have the same architect?
Yes. Okay.
And who was that?
Yep.
Was the same for both buildings? Okay.
Common thread, huh?
Well, Jeff High had the same problem. And it wasn't the same architect.
Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Pavey. I think Jeff Hyde's was a different issue, more structural versus.
I think it's masonry. We thought that the issue at Jeff High related to the masonry as well up on the top of the roof. So it's not a roof issue; it's a masonry issue where water is seeping in through the masonry. So it is similar in that respect.
Oh, okay.
But it is true that at Utica and Pleasant Ridge, it's a similar design issue.
Well, is this something that we're going to pay for? Why wouldn't we just submit for a bid or proposal to fix the problem and let the company determine what the problem problem is, and give us a proposal to fix the problem.
That's what this is about. What we have to do is we have to ask for permission to bring that company in to determine what is the extent of the issue. Then we'll come back based upon their analysis, and we'll come back to you and say, to fix the problem, this is what it will take. This is the amount of time it will take. This is how much it will cost. So it's just part of the process. We have to have someone come in with that engineering type of background and determine what is the problem.
If we just put it out for a bid, we wouldn't know, would it be a roofer, would it be a bricklayer, would it be a structural steel guy that would be bidding on it? You have to give them some idea. You have to do your preliminary work first, identify where the problem is, and then they will identify what the fix is, and then we will go out for a bid to have a contractor, whoever it may be, a bricklayer, brick company or a roofing company, to fix it.
Any other questions? Mr. Hall?
No.
You sure?
Well, I do have to say this. If it's water, it's probably rain, and it's coming from up above.
There you go.
Do we owe you
I don't know how it's getting to the wall, but it's coming from up above.
If all things were just that simple.
But you saw it too, don't you?
Yeah.
We'll get your bill tomorrow.
Thanks, Tony. I feel better.
His professional opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you.
Next one you have before you is a resolution. Twice a year we come before you asking for permission to move money within capital projects from one account number to another. Let me read the resolution. It may make it a little bit clearer. It says, whereas the Board of School Trustees of the Greater Clark County School Corporation on October 16, 2012 adopted the 2013 Capital Projects Fund Plan, listing the needs of each school location and classifications designated by the state. And whereas the transfer of funds from one classification to another within the same location is permitted by Indiana Code 50 IAC 9-1-13, provided the governing body adopt a resolution that determines the transfer and classifications is necessary, and therefore it is resolved that the Board of School Trustees of the Greater Clark County School Corporation determines that each of the requested transfers is necessary and does hereby adopt this resolution to make the following transfers in the 2013 Capital Projects Fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. White, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? All right, 7-0.
And my last one, yay, is temporary interfund loans. What we're asking permission here is we borrow tax anticipation warrants once a year, and that money goes into certain funds that we feel is necessary. Well, in the operation of our school district, we only get property taxes twice a year. So there may be times where we have to transfer money out of general fund or the rainy day fund into these funds because I don't want to get written up every 6 months, so I don't have any citations like New Albany Floyd didn't have, that if we are in the negative at the end of every 6 month, any 6 month period, we will be cited by the state board. So what we're asking for is another resolution that allows us to transfer money on a temporary basis. This is coming out of the rainy day fund too, but it will go back before the end of the year, so it's not a permanent transfer. I will come to you and do a permanent transfer resolution towards the end of this year when we need it. So we have another resolution asking or giving us permission to transfer money from the general fund and the rainy day fund into any of our other tax supported funds as we feel is necessary. And it's a temporary loan. It'll be repaid.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions?
I'm very familiar with that. Cities and towns are having to do the same thing. Yeah.
All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis, you're up. Student rights and responsibilities.
Good evening, Board. We've got the next item is the student rights and responsibilities. We bring this each year, and not a lot of changes this year. There were just a few in the back as it applied to asbestos and some pesticides. You'll recall you all just voted and approved to remove corporal punishment and everything. So I try to keep this up to date, and that's why we don't just make a bunch of changes all at one time. We typically have brought these at the same time we bring the student handbooks, if you'll recall. But as we start the online registration process on April 22nd, we wanted to go ahead and put this as part of the packet so parents could see this. So you've got this a little bit early, and then we'll bring each of the student handbooks back to you guys in May. So.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. White. Second, Mr. Satterley. Any questions? Travis, do we still print these out and hand them to every student?
In their handbooks. We moved that, instead of doing two separate things, that's part of the actual handbook, the spiral-bound calendars, if you will, the planners.
Right. Do you know how much that is? It's part of their planner?
Part of the planners,
okay.
Yes.
All right.
And, of course, it's online as well.
Okay. I know if we do more of this online and we make changes at mid-year, it's not a big deal. It's like a health insurance network provider directory. It's real-time changes, and right. Every time you print something, it's not outdated right away. So that's why I was asking.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Driver's ed.
Yeah, the driver's ed. This is something that we started about 3 years ago in 2010 when we moved away from the driver's ed program in the schools. This is, I've talked to, it's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of extending this for three more years, which we can do. Sandy has reviewed all of the material here. The tuition is about $350. It's an online program. I've talked to all three of the high school principals. We're not getting any complaints from parents. My own daughter went through it, and so knock on wood, we're so far so good. So we thought we'd go ahead and bring this forward for the board's consideration.
There's no increase, right, Travis?
Correct. No increases, and just for the record, they do rebate us $10 per student to use for advertisement. They have upheld their end of the bargain. It's been a pretty good partnership.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Discussion? All in favor? And it's 7-0.
Thank you. My last item is the intercession staffing service agreement with communities and schools. Board, you'll recall that last month you approved the intercession plan, and part of that was that we would use and partner with communities and schools during those intercessions, and this is the agreement that states that they will assist us in the staffing of the intercession. And Ms. Lewis actually put this together. Not only reviewed it, she actually put it together for us. So.
Thank you for that.
That's a good thing.
Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions? All in favor? All right, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we've got a couple of minor changes to school calendar.
I just wanted to talk about something. My team has been dominating the time this evening, so I thought they do a great job. With the updated calendar, Board, there were three things that we found. Number one, with the new balanced calendar for next year, we needed to reevaluate when we were going to do parent-teacher conferences. And we needed to make sure that those dates were appropriate and on the calendar. So we've adjusted and added the parent-teacher conference dates for both the fall and the spring to the 13-14 calendar. There was also discussion on snow days. This year we have two snow days that were built in. One is President's Day and one is Oaks Day. And one of the problems that we have on both of those days is we have some staff attendance issues that occur. And if my feeling, I'll just say it was my feeling was if there are days that are important to have off, then let's not make them snow days where it becomes a 50-50 proposition in terms of your families or your staff. So Martin Luther King Day is honored. Everyone is off on that day in respect to Dr. King. President's Day would be another day, to me, considered honoring our presidents. And an Oaks Day, because of the nature here of this in this area, how important that day seems to be in our area, and being respectful of that. I basically said, why do we have snow days on those 2 days? It puts people in difficult positions. So our recommendation is we put all our snow days at the end of the year, and is to give ourselves enough time so we don't get ourselves caught into this commencement issue, that we move commencement back 1 week. If we make that adjustment now, then people have well over a year to make sure they know when commencement will occur, regardless of how many snow days there are. It gives us plenty of room to still, and it also, frankly, as a former high school principal, having commencement sometimes so close to the end of the year, it's really crazy to try to get everything ready to go by commencement. So giving extra time, some more breathing room for our staffs, to me makes some sense. So we've discussed it with GCEA, and we believe that this is in the best interest of our school corporation moving forward, that those are the changes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Teresa. And second, Mrs. Kraft. Thank you. Any questions? I'm sure our high school senior counselors would appreciate a little extra time at the end of the year, wouldn't they? All right. All in favor? Is that 7-0? All right. Thank you.
We're not going to leave anyone out tonight.
I don't do anything. We go through a 6-year adoption cycle, and as most of you know, we have been trying to kind of wean ourselves away from textbook adoptions, number one, because of the cost of books, the high price of books, and moving towards a more digital or digitized use of text. But several years ago, the state implemented the iRead program, and one of the conditions of the iRead assessment was that if schools did not achieve at 90%, they would be required to adopt from a mandatory list approved by the state of scientifically based approved reading adoption or reading series. As a district, we had several schools who did not reach that 90% threshold. We were at an 85% as a district the first year that we took iRead last year. And so as a district, we made the decision that because we have mobility in our district, even though we had some schools that made that 90%, when we were going to adopt, we adopted for the higher district. So we've spent the entire year looking at the materials. We've had pilots going in every one of our schools. We've had at least 2 committee members representing each of the schools who have looked at every piece of material that's been available at the elementaries, and the committees come together and made the recommendation for the adoption of the McGraw-Hill reading series. So they would like for the board to approve their recommendation, and from this point, what this allows is, with the purchase and the adoption of this particular series, it will provide them with both the hardback and the electronic copy. So in the future, over the next 6 years during this adoption, we'll have access to both full digital and hard copies. So the board would approve this adoption. We can move forward.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Pavey, thank you. Any questions?
How will this affect the book rental rate?
That's a great question, and I am pleased to say that at our next meeting, we will come back and you will see a significant reduction in the elementary book rental.
Any other questions? All in favor? All right, 7-0. Thank you, Amy. Miss Ann is up.
What we're recommending is a contract for temporary contract for speech services, and you might ask why are we contracting these? This is one of the hardest to find positions that we have. We're fortunate enough to actually find someone who would provide us 2 days a week, and in order to do that, we offered her a contract for those 2 days.
Kraft, thank you. Second, Mr. Hall, thank you. Questions? It's just contract for services and no benefits or...
No benefits, just an hourly rate.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. And last is a joint service agreement.
This is actually the annual agreement we signed between among the three school corporations, Clarksville, West Clark, and Greater Clark. And just basically, it is a cooperative agreement so that we can provide services for kids with special needs. And we recommend that you approve it. We've approved it for about 30 years now.
Motion, Ms. Perkins, thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White, any questions? All in favor? All right, 7-0.
Thank you.
And that concludes our action item agenda for tonight, which was loaded.
Yeah, it was loaded.
All right, board reports or requests. Mr. Hall, do you have anything?
Yes. I think we need to get New Washington girls basketball team to recognize them. They won a sectional, and the Jeffersonville boys basketball team for their success, and we need them here at a board meeting. I think it'd be pretty neat.
Okay. Taking notes, Dr. Mellon?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ms. Perkins?
I pass.
Mr. White?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Kraft? All right. Mr. Satterley?
No thanks.
Mr. Pavey?
Nothing.
Okay. I have just a request as well, and I thought maybe this would make it easier for everybody. For the board appointments to our committees, if perhaps in your Friday update you could include any committee meetings that are going to be happening the future week, so we're all aware of when our committee meetings are, and try to make arrangements to make sure we're present as your board liaisons. And then Mrs. Kraft, you brought up the joint school board subcommittee. Now you serve on the transportation committee on that.
I thought I did.
You do. It's for the joint school board meeting.
Yes.
I think what they had wasn't a joint school board deal, but
Well, you said you had people from other corporations.
It was just administrative representatives. It wasn't part of the joint school board. We didn't have any school board members there.
Okay. I was supposed to be the one who talked about the gas and so forth, but that's okay. It's
that's
not
the
urgent.
transportation subcommittee.
Really don't need another job. Okay, yes.
And then I'm the legislative liaison. And Tony, were you named to a subcommittee at the last joint school board meeting? What was that?
Technology.
I think it was purchasing power.
Purchasing. Okay. I'm trying to write these down for Dr. Mellon so he's aware.
See, what's interesting with the joint school boards, I don't coordinate any of those. I'm more than happy to help in any way needed, but so the joint school board committees, I don't coordinate or facilitate, but I'll be happy to help communicate messages when they come my way, but usually I think they work through you as president. Is that right?
Normally.
I just want to make sure I don't miss out on something that can be helpful to you.
Are there any other subcommittees as far as the joint school boards that I'm missing?
I don't think so, Dr. Wong.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I got those down for you, Dr. Mellon.
Great, thank you.
All right. Next we'll move. We don't have any more public comments? Okay, so board comments. Mr. Hall, do you have anything else? Ms. Perkins? Mr. White? Mrs. Kraft?
I have stuff to pass out. Just pass it that way. Pass it that way.
Of course.
It's probably information that you have already read, but it just kind of keeps you up to date with what's happening with the legislature, since that's my job as a board person.
A lot of legislative updates in the last few weeks.
A lot going on. A lot going on.
Thank you. Mr. Satterley, you have anything?
No, thank you.
Mr. Pavey?
Well, just another shout out to Aramark for the very generous gift tonight. You've been a great partner for us over the last few years, and again, we appreciate what you do for us. So,
I see some Greater Clark alumni. I just want to say hi. I'm glad you all are here. Dr. Mellon?
Yeah, again, just related to legislation, obviously they're at a point where there's a lot of meeting going on, and with bills that have crossed over over and discussion, and try to keep you informed whenever I'm getting updates from the Superintendent's Association. So it's just one method of getting some information. And Mrs. Kraft, I appreciate this information you've provided as well. I think it is important that we stay in touch with the legislation. There are things out there that can and will impact us, and whenever there is something that might hit you in terms of a concern, don't hesitate to reach out not only to your colleagues but reach out to me as well, because maybe we can then formulate a communication practice that would go out to people as a group, if that's appropriate for all of you, just to make sure our legislators are fully aware of where we stand on things. So whatever I can do to help in that way, I'll be more than happy to do so.
And I'm excited. I apologize. I should have said this before. The legislative subcommittee of the joint school board, we have a meeting Friday, and for the first time, our superintendents are invited to speak directly to our legislators about how their decisions are impacting us. So I'm excited about that. And New Albany Floyd is hosting that, so I will bring a report back to you at our next meeting. Anything else? All right. Is there a meeting? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. All in favor?